So hello everyone. This next video is going to be about chapter 6, chapter on strategic management. So just like all the other videos, you've probably gotten used to my format by now. I am going to do a screen share and walk through the slides. Now, just like some of the other videos, there will be some activities or exercises. So feel free to pause the video at that time, work on the exercise at your own pace, and then come back to the video. If there are any outside links, they will be posted in the comment section under the video itself. So let me try and do the screen share right here of my, of the presentation. Oh, maybe not. Let's try a second time. There. All right, perfect. So, so this chapter is on strategic management. What is strategic management? If you look carefully, you will find out that strategic management, and you've probably already read the chapter by now, strategic management is looking at overall strategy of the company. And we'll talk about overall strategy, looking at how do we sustain, but more than that, not just sustain, but how do we thrive? How do we maintain something called sustained competitive advantage? How do we remain competitive year after year and possibly generation after generation? And how do we do that? Now, remember, the very first step in the 4 functions of management are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And so strategic management is a part of planning. You should never move forward with actually running the company till you've gone over your strategy. What is your strategy? And then also remember, strategic management and planning is not just for when you are making a new company, but every year, every few years, it is really important to revisit your grand strategy. But before we go into any of that, here is an activity that I want you to spend some time on. Sit back, close your eyes, right? What I want you to do is explore your own life's vision, all right? What do you see your life looking like in 10 years? Imagine every element of your life. Imagine it as clearly and in as much detail as you would like. Once you have that vision in your mind, take a piece of paper and draw this vision, right? Remember, nobody is going to see your vision. This is for you. This will be useful to you, and we will revisit this in the later part of the chapter. But for now, all I want you to do is have fun with this activity. You don't need to be an artist. You just need to have creativity. Explore your vision, draw it on the piece of paper, be as clear and creative as you can be. If you want to use words to explain your images, go ahead and do that, but try and have more images, because remember, we imagine in images, we think in images, we don't really think in words all the time. So go ahead, pause the video at this point if you want to, and draw your life vision. When you're ready, come back and start watching, resume the video and start watching it from where you left off. So I'm assuming you're done with your vision and you're ready to move forward, but we're not done with the activity yet. So there's a second part to the activity that I need you to do, but you should not be doing it till you've done the first part, all right? This is for your benefit, so you can choose to hear everything and then start the activity with it, but it might defeat the purpose. So wait till you've done this first part of the activity to come to the second part, which is now you will turn this vision, the vision that you have for yourself, into a SMART goal. Sometimes people say that they have so much in their vision that it cannot be put into one SMART goal, and that's perfectly fine. Have no more than 3. So anywhere from 1 to 3 SMART goals. If you want, you can make a SMART goal about your personal life, one SMART goal about your professional life, and you can have one SMART goal about your self-development or self-enhancement. So go ahead and turn this vision into 1 to 3 goals. And when you've done, come back to the video and resume it. So now, once you've done the SMART goal, now it's the time to go ahead and talk about the chapter. And there is a reason we did this, so do not lose it. Hang on to this beautiful drawing that you've made of your vision. We'll come back to it. So first, let's start talking about strategic management and planning, right? Where does strategic management fall under the whole process, right? Before we talk about that, let's talk about what is strategy, right? Strategy is a large-scale action plan that sets the direction for an organization, right? So you're getting together your plan of action and where and how you want your organization to get to that vision. Remember the mission, vision. This is from the previous chapter. So you have a mission statement, you have a vision statement, and once you have your mission and the vision, then you turn them into goals, and which is exactly what you've done in the previous exercise for yourself. You have a vision for yourself for your life, and you've turned it into a goal. And the same thing, the same exercises for organizations. So what is strategic management? If strategy is plan of action, strategic management is the process that involves managers from all parts of the organization, right, in the formulation and implementation of strategies. So when ideally you want everyone in the management team, the top management team, and middle managers as well, helping the organization develop a strategy and strategic process and strategic goals. And that is pretty much the whole process is strategic management. So where is strategic management in this whole mission, vision, planning process? Well, right here, right? This is where strategic management and strategic planning falls. Remember, strategic planning is done by the top managers. It's usually from 1 to 5 years, and you develop goals and action plans. However, to have a very good strategy, it's really important to get feedback from your middle level managers as well. If any of you have ever watched the TV series Undercover Boss, if you're an international student and you haven't, go ahead. You should be able to find some clips of it on YouTube or on Hulu or any of the streaming services. Go ahead and watch an episode. But Undercover Boss pretty much helps understand how the higher up you move into an organization, the less contact and less information you have about all the other levels below you in the organization. So you cannot really sit at the CEO seat and assume you know every single thing about your organization. Chances are you don't. And it's really important to get the feedback of those low-level managers as well before you plan or you make your strategy. An effective strategy, right? An effective strategy attempts to achieve sustainable competitive advantage by keeping and preserving what is distinctive about a company, right? So what do we mean by sustained competitive advantage? A company can figure out how to beat its competitor once, but to be able to do it over and over and over, and to be able to keep doing it for years or generations is what is called sustainable or sustained competitive advantage. We're not talking about a company only being successful once. We're talking about how a company can make sure it's successful year after year, right? So how do you do that? Through your strategy. Strategy is the creation of a unique and valuable position that others cannot really have. It requires trade-offs in competing, and it requires a fit among activities. Looking at who you are, which is why a mission statement is very important. A company cannot try to do something that another company is doing just because that it's succeeding for another company. Remember, you have your own, and we'll talk about it, you have your own strengths, you have your own features of a company that are unique. Not everyone has it. For example, just because your cousin is doing a PhD in accounting doesn't mean you will enjoy it or it will necessarily be good for you. You have to look at, well, is this the right fit for me? And we'll talk about what fit really means. What are the things that affect fit? So let's look at the strategic process, right? What is the strategic process and what does it involve? Well, the first step in the strategic process is actually formulating a strategy, figuring out what strategy do you want to use for your company based on your mission and your vision and some other factors that we'll talk about. Then you move towards implementation, which is pretty much putting your strategic plan into effect, right? So once you've formulated a strategy based on your organization's needs, now you're going to implement that strategy. But that's not enough. Remember, the POLC, planning, organizing, leading, controlling, is a cyclical process. And so control has to be done at every stage. You cannot just wait to do the control at the end of the year. You do it all the time. So strategic control consists of monitoring, which means keeping an eye on the execution or implementation of your strategy and making adjustments if necessary, right? So keep an eye on your strategy as you're implementing it to see, hey, do I need to change what I'm doing? Do I need to change how I'm doing what I'm doing? All right. So for strategic control, engage people. Right? Keep it simple, keep it moving, and stay focused. But there is one more part of this whole process, which is competitive intelligence. So what is competitive intelligence? And I want to make sure you understand competitive intelligence is different than corporate espionage, okay? Spying is not the same as competitive intelligence. Competitive intelligence is gaining information about your competitors' activities so that you can anticipate their moves and react appropriately, right? If you are Lowe's, the hardware store, competitive intelligence would be in keeping an eye out on Home Depot or Menards or any of the other local home improvement stores or hardware stores to see what they're doing so that you are not left behind. So that you can anticipate their move and react before. How do you get a competitive intelligence? Well, you use publicly provided information, public prints, advertising, investor information, informal sources, anything that does not involve breaching ethics or the law, you can use those, right? Use publicly available information. The earlier example I gave about Lowe's and Home Depot, if you are a manager at Lowe's, you can choose to go shop at Home Depot one time and actually shop and not just go there, actually shop and see what are they doing that is different from your store. All right, so competitive intelligence is really important because remember, again, we're looking at a sustained competitive advantage, staying competitive year after year, time after time. Now, to do all of these things, remember what I said, fit is really important. You find a strategy that fits your company. How do you find fit? How do you figure that out? By doing a SWOT analysis. And what is a SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis is carefully monitoring your organization's internal and external environment to detect early signs of opportunities and threats, and also your strengths and weaknesses. So you do an internal analysis to find your strengths and weaknesses of the company, and you do environmental scanning, which is monitoring your internal and external environment to figure out opportunities and threats. So these are two processes going hand in hand, environmental scanning and internal analysis. And what is the environment? What is the internal external environment that you as a company have to keep an eye on? Remember, we looked at this, the stakeholder diagram. It's a really good, handy diagram to just come back to look at what is the environment. The internal environment are the employees, the board of directors, the owners of the company, and all the other things. Look at that. The external stakeholders, the environment where they are is the external environment. So environmental scanning is a process that you use to develop your SWOT analysis. So what is a SWOT analysis? Well, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So remember how I said, your cousin might be doing a PhD in accounting. is that really something for you? So for example, my significant other is an accounting professor. Well, is that the right career choice for me? Not really. I am really good with people. I love studying human behavior. I'm a psychologist by trade. My strengths are that I am good with people. My strengths are that I am really good at understanding and predicting human behavior, and I enjoy it. And my weakness is that I really don't have an interest in accounting or accounting theory or anything to do with that. And so it really doesn't make sense to go do something someone else is doing just because it looks good for them. It's important to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and also opportunities and threats. We'll talk about that. So I've given you a personal example, but let's look at it from an organization's perspective, right? What are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So strengths are, internal competencies. All right. These are things that a company is really good at, and these are the competencies that the company has. Weaknesses are the internal competencies that the company lacks. All right. Things that they don't really have. Opportunities are factors in the outside environment that might help a company improve its performance. And threats are factors in the outside external environment that might hinder a company's competitive advantage. All right. So strengths and weaknesses are what the company possesses internally. Opportunities and threats are things that are outside in the environment. And it's only through a careful knowledge and understanding of all these things can you understand the fit of a strategy for yourself. All right, so let's go over this again. Strengths are skills and capabilities that give the organization special competencies and competitive advantage, all right, in executing its strategy, right? So to reach its mission and vision. Weaknesses are drawbacks that hinder an organization in executing strategies in pursuit of its mission. And what are opportunities? Well, opportunities are environmental factors, just like threats are. They're both environmental factors, but the difference is opportunities these are the factors that the organization can use to achieve competitive advantage. And threats are environmental factors that hinder an organization's achieving a competitive advantage, all right? So once you've done the SWOT analysis for your company, you are in a better position to understand what strategy should I apply, right? Only once you've done a SWOT analysis should you move on to the strategy. So for that reason, let's come back to the activity. So let's pick that drawing that you did earlier of the vision for your future. Pick that up, all right? And also your SMART goal. So you have your vision and you have your SMART goal. So what are you going to do now? You are going to take your time, come up with a SWOT analysis, all right? Feel free to use this chart, the handy chart that I had here, and your book has it too. But use it to build a SWOT chart or a SWOT analysis for yourself. So this is my vision. These are my goals. But what are my strengths that will help me achieve this goal? What are my weaknesses that might prevent me from achieving this goal? Okay. What are the opportunities? And what are the opportunities outside in the environment that will help me get these goals? And what are the threats, possible threats coming down? They may not be here today, but looking and forecasting, looking at what are the possible threats that I might encounter in the pursuit of these goals that I have. So go ahead, pause the video, take your time, and just like last time, take as much time as you need and build your SWOT analysis. Once you have your SWOT analysis, come back to the video and resume it. So I'm assuming you finished making your SWOT analysis. So why am I making you do all these things? What is the purpose of these activities? Well, these three items, your vision, your SMART goal, and your SWOT analysis, they are going to be your roadmap as you go through your career in the next few years. Whatever you're doing, these three items will help you, will give you a clear path and a clear direction. And that's what's needed, not just for your life, but for organizations as well. But I like to get my students to do it for themselves because it helps you understand the process at a much more intimate level than if you were trying to do it in the book for another random company. So, all right, now that you have your SWOT analysis and you know what the company has to figure out, now is the time to look at a strategy, all right? Figuring out, all right, these are the strengths and weaknesses for my company. These are the opportunities and threats out there in the environment. Given all these things, what's the best strategy for me, okay? How should I go about getting what I want for my company? Or how should I go about achieving the vision of my company, okay? So the first thing you look at, or the first strategic process you look at, is Porter's 5 competitive forces. You look at what are the forces that are affecting my company. And these 5 forces are forces that are coming from suppliers, bargainers, or buyers, potential competitors. The first one is, and let me see if I can find. So the first one is the bargaining power of suppliers, right? The bargaining power, customers who buy a lot of products or services from an organization have more bargaining power than those who don't, right? So you may have customers who have a lot more say in what you do than some other. Oh, sorry, no. I'm talking about bargaining power of suppliers. Well, I've just finished explaining to you the bargaining power of buyers, all right? So the bargaining power of buyers is that, the customers who buy a lot from you will have a lot more power over your company. But the same way for the suppliers as well. Some companies can easily switch suppliers, but others can't. If you have a specific supplier that really is good for you, or they're the only ones who have that particular material or raw material that you need, this supplier has a lot of power over you. They can bargain, and they can try and sway the way your company is working. And so if a supplier wants to charge you more, it will affect your end product and your end price, right? Which means you have to keep these things in mind when you're looking at your strategy. Another force, a competitive force, is the threat of new entrants, all right? Threat of new entrants means new companies or competitions, okay? So new competitors can affect an industry by taking away customers from an existing organization. So if you have a very strong market presence, but suddenly a new company comes in and they're doing well and they're taking your customers away from you, but that's a problem that is going to affect your competitive power. Then the fourth one is the threat of substitute products, all right? In this day and age, in the internet technology age, it's easier for organizations to find new suppliers and to switch to other products or services when circumstances threaten their usual channel. And so it's really foolish for a company to think, oh, my buyers are not going to go anywhere. My suppliers aren't going to go anywhere. Come on, who can they go to? Nope. Remember, it's a big threat. They can find other services. They can find other people. Buyers can find other products. So, a painkiller, one painkiller is just the same as other. Or during flu season, you might choose to buy Dayquil, or you might choose to buy the store brand name Walgreens or CVS medicine that has the same exact compounds. Well, those are substitutable products or services. And the final competitive force is rivalry among existing firms. How does rivalry among existing firms affect your company? Well, the preceding 4 forces will produce rivalry among competitors, which means it will increase the risk factor that much more. Now the stakes are higher, which means you also have to be at your best game. And so all these 5 forces are affecting your SWOT analysis. They're also affecting what kind of strategy would be best for you. So before you go to the strategy, it's important to understand these things, right? Which are the 5 forces that are affecting me the most? And then you formulate your grand strategy, right? So what is this grand strategy? Grand strategy explains how it's comes after assessing the current reality. So you've looked at SWOT analysis, you've looked at your competitive forces. Now, the grand strategy explains how your mission is to be accomplished, right? So you take this big grand, one of the different ways you can implement grand strategy. One kind of grand strategy involves growth, all right? So growth strategy is expansion. You could find new market share, increase the number of employees, you increase the number of customers, you increase your sales revenue, you start growing as a company. All right. Well, when do you use growth strategy? We'll talk about that. Let me just explain the other 2 strategies as well. Stability as a strategy involves no change or little to no change, right? Stability means you're just keeping the status quo. And defensive involves reduction in the organization's efforts, sort of retrenchment, coming back instead of, so defensive is sort of the opposite of growth. So how do you determine which strategy is right for you? You know, most companies, especially the startups, are told grow, 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 grow. Remember, growth may not always be the best strategy for everyone, all right? When do you use growth strategy? You know, growth strategy, it can expand into new products and services. Do it when you have the capability, when you have the money, the resources, and the capital. All right. When do you use the stability statistic, the stability strategy? You use it when you know the growth is too fast. If you find that you're growing too fast, too soon, and problems are happening, customer complaints are happening, your quality is deteriorating because of how quickly you're growing, well, maybe it's time to stop growing and preserve what you have, stabilize your company, bring your quality back up, okay? And then defensive strategy, when you do that, well, you know, it can help a company reduce costs by freezing hiring, tightening expenses. You know, you can gradually phase out old products that aren't making money. So defensive strategy is pretty much helping a company that might be losing revenues and that might be losing its edge and is losing money as well, to retrench, come back, regather your forces and say, all right, I'm losing money. What do I do? Do I fire people? Do I need to do that? Do I stop making this one particular product? So, for example, Netflix has been doing that. Most of you know Netflix as the instant streaming service right now, but Netflix still has its DVD service going on. And its plan is to phase out the DVD service in a few years, in another year or 2. And that's a defensive strategy. Why are they doing that? Well, majority of their customers are on the streaming service. But the DVD service still has a loyal group of customers, but it's very small. They're making a lot of money with it. So it's not as if they're losing money. But with logistics the way it is, it's becoming more and more expensive. And because it's such a small division, Netflix has decided it doesn't make sense to continue doing that anymore. So that's a good way to use defensive strategy. So don't think defensive strategy is only when your company's failing. Defensive strategy might help you regroup and think, all right, we're doing something here. And it's not really working in the grand mission. Netflix is trying to become this big internet instant streaming service, and they've become a production house. So they have Netflix original drama, Netflix original movies. And so their mission and their vision has changed than what it was 10 years ago. So it makes sense for them to use the defensive strategy for one portion of their service so that they can maintain their current mission and vision. So once you've looked at your grand strategy, now it's time to look at the competitive strategy. You have a grand strategy, sure. How will you compete? How will you compete with others? Before I talk about that, there's one thing that companies always look at. Do I want to do different activities from my competitors? Or do I want to do the same activity differently? Okay, what does that mean? Well, my competitors, so let's say, for example, a company comes in, frozen yogurt. I'm a big frozen yogurt fan. But before frozen yogurt came on the scene, everyone was making frozen custard or ice creams, we call it. And so when the frozen yogurt companies first came in, they were doing a different thing. They weren't doing the same thing. They were doing a different thing. They were supplying people with a new product and a new way of doing it. But doing the same thing differently or doing the same activity differently. The example would be when Amazon's bookstore area or Barnes and Nobles. Barnes and Nobles decided, we're going to do the same thing, sell books, but we're going to do it differently. We're going to go online now. We're going to be more internet-based company. So they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it differently. They're doing the same thing others are doing, but they're doing it differently from their competitors. So that's the first decision companies have to make. The second is which of the competitive strategies to use, all right? And there are actually two big strategies, but you see four because there are sub-strategies. There's a combination here, all right? And so cost leadership is the first. So leadership and differentiation. Let's talk about leadership and differentiation first. And then we'll talk about focused and differentiation first, sorry. And then we'll talk about the other. So focused strategy is a strategy where you, as the name suggests, focus on one particular product or service or one particular way. Leadership is when you decide you're going to be standing apart from the others, right? So cost leadership, differentiation, cost focus, and focus differentiation, all right? So cost leadership would be a strategy where a company decides that they want to target a wide market, but they want to keep the costs and hence the prices of a product or service below those of competitors, which means across the board. So focused strategy, cost focus. So look at cost leadership. Let me do a pointer again and help. So cost leadership and cost focus. I'm going to compare these two for you. All right. In cost leadership, a company decides across the board, no matter what product they have, they're going to keep their prices really, really low. In a cost-focused strategy, a company decides, you know what, we are going to keep the costs of a product below those of the competitors to target a narrow market, but all the other products that we have are going to still be at the same cost, right? So why would a company decide to choose a cost focus? Why not just reduce the price of all the products? Well, sometimes monetarily, it may not be feasible for a company to reduce the costs of all their product. Their profit margins might fall down. But by having a cost-focused strategy, they're still able to attract customers and highlight their brand name. All right, so it's really important for a company to figure out which one can we use. The other two strategies are differentiation strategy. Differentiation strategies are when you're trying to set yourself apart. So you're not reducing your prices to set yourself apart. You're doing something that sets you apart from your competitors. So a differentiation strategy would be wide strategy where across the board you decide you're going to offer products or services that are of unique and superior value compared to those of your competitors. But you're targeting a wide market. All right, so managers may have to spend more R&D, and marketing, but companies use this strategy to create a brand, a distinctive brand name. They hope this brand name will set them apart. So an example that I would give you is from airlines industry, and this example will help you when we're talking about focused differentiation next. So look at Emirates Airways, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a video. There will be a video link under this video for Emirates. So Emirates across the board, for their economy class, for their business class and first class, they're known as the best service. They provide the best service. So they've differentiated themselves by providing the best service that any airline possibly can. And what I want you to do is feel free to pause my video at this point and go and watch the video, for Emirates. Go look up Emirates and look at the reviews and look at what the market is saying about them. So they're saying we're going to set ourselves apart. We are a luxury airline. Even for economy class, we give more luxury than other airlines do. Focus differentiation is a strategy, again, like cost focus. Companies choose to differentiate one product or one service. They're not able to put resources to differentiate everything. But they decide, we're going to take one product or one service and we're going to differentiate that from all the others. And so how this is happening is Delta, right? Delta realized, well, we can't really reduce our costs. We can't really differentiate all the other things. So they have taken their first class or business class travel, and they're trying to differentiate that from all the other American Airlines or United Airlines, right? So instead of being a luxury airline across the board like Emirates, they've decided to provide more luxury for their first class or business class. So that's focused differentiation. You take one product, one service, and you differentiate yourself more on that area, okay? Another strategy question is, are you going to be a company that makes one product, single product versus diversification, okay? So single product is a strategy where a company makes and sells only one product within its market, okay? What are the benefits of that? Well, the benefit is it's a focused strategy, right? Making just one product allows the company to focus its manufacturing and marketing efforts on just one product. But there are risks to a single product strategy. The biggest risk is vulnerability, right? If problems arise with that one single product, it might destroy your whole company. And so a lot of companies decide to diversify. Okay, diversification is a strategy where an organization operates several businesses in order to spread the risk. So if something happens to one product, one business, the company still doesn't go under because it still has other units. And those are the benefits. The risks are that it requires a lot more manpower and money. So there are two different kinds of diversification that a company can choose to do. Related. A related diversification is when an organization is under one ownership, operates separate businesses that are related to one another, right? Either in their end product or in the industry. They're related. Unrelated diversification, as the name suggests, is a strategy of having several businesses under one ownership, just like related. Under unrelated diversification, these products they don't have any relation to each other, all right? So a company that produces, let's say, cell phones, or a company that produces cell phones starts producing tablets, that's related diversification. A company that's producing cell phones starts producing furniture, that's unrelated diversification. So now let's take a pause and I want you to do another activity. You've covered a substantial amount of the chapter, so you're ready to do this activity. What I want you to do, if you're working, think of your current company or another company that you worked with. Evaluate the ways in which this company performs different activities from its rivals, or it performs activities in different ways from its rivals. One of the two, all right? Evaluate which do they do. And then do these actions help your company or this company maintain competitive advantage? So this is a very good application exercise. Take your time, pause the video, and think about what the strategy or what the method plan of action of this company is. It will help you put everything we've talked about into perspective. The final piece of strategic management is execution, right? Getting things done. It consists of using questioning, analysis, and follow through in order to mesh strategy with reality, right? Align people with goals, achieve results promised is a central part of company strategy. So you have formulated your strategy, but you now need to implement this strategy, get this done. And how do you get this done? There are 3 core processes of any business. So people, consider who will benefit you in the future. Hire the people who are going to help you execute the strategy in the best way possible. Strategy. Consider how success will be accomplished. So looking at your strategy and keeping an eye on it throughout the process. And then operations, how will you execute it? You have who, the people, what, your strategy, and how is the operations. And then you build a foundation of execution. Know your people in your business really well. There is no substitute to knowing your people. What are their strengths and weaknesses? A lot of times managers really don't know what their employees are good at or not good at. Know that really well. Be realistic. Remember, just like SMART goals, have realistic expectations from yourself and from your employees. Set clear goals and priorities, right? Never think your employees know exactly what's going through your mind. No, make sure you are clear with them. Follow through. That's really important. And then reward the ones who are helping you achieve your strategy, because not only is it an incentive for them, it's a motivation for other people too. Expand your capabilities. Don't ever think the people and the competencies that I have today will help me in the future. And remember, the future is changing. It's such a quick pace that unless you're forecasting it ahead of time, you may not be able to keep up with it. And then finally, know yourself. Know your business, sure. Know your people, sure. But know yourself as well. Know your limitations. That would be the best way to execute and build a foundation for execution. Thank you. And that's it. This is the end of the chapter. I will be posting the other chapter videos as well, but feel free to send me a comment. We've done a few videos now. Send me a comment on whether the videos are helpful or not. And if there are specific things that you want me to cover in the videos that I may not be covering already. So send me those ideas in either the discussion board or an email so I can start implementing them. But till then, good luck and goodbye, and keep your eyes open for the next video.